Hey, it's Taylor from Traveling Taylor, and today marks 1 full year that I have been traveling internationally. That since I left home, sold everything I had, and I've been on the road. I have learned a few things in that time, and I wanted to share all the lessons that I've learned, or at least the top 5 lessons I've learned since I've actually been traveling, and hopefully to encourage and inspire others who are wanting to go on this journey but are a little unsure what you can expect a little bit. So, the first thing that I learned from traveling solo for the last year is that everything has a way of working out. Um, it's something that we hear, right? Like all the time, like, oh, it'll work out or it'll be the way it's supposed to be. But what I've found is that when you're traveling, there's so many moving pieces and moving parts that at times things can get really stressful because you're not sure how it's going to work out. But in the end, it always does. Like it has a way of doing that. So more than probably any other time in my entire life, I just trust that things will work out when they don't really seem that they're going to. The second lesson that I've learned is that, well, not so much I've learned it, but I've just experienced it, and that is just living more in the moment. It is really hard to plan ahead. At times, it's really hard to know what's going to happen in the next 24 hours, next 48 hours. And so it's sort of really forced me to live in the moment. I have less routine in my life, I have less things that are certain. And so I just sort of have to live in the moment that I'm in and make decisions based on that. Which leads me to my third point, which is that you get really good at making decisions when you travel full time. And especially when you're in new countries where you don't speak the language, everything kind of becomes a decision, and you really learn to just trust yourself, to trust what you know, trust what you see, kind of again, kind of going back to living in the moment, because you're just making decisions all day long. You also get really good at figuring out what's an important decision and what is just like, hey, let's just decide this and move on and not dwell on it too much. Because if you spend all of your time worrying about every single little thing that you do, it gets hard to make forward progress. Like it's hard to actually make sure that you experience the place that you're in if you're just worried about what decisions you're making. So those 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand, but I would say those are 2 big pieces of the travel as well. And then the fourth thing that I've just really come to accept is that you don't have to be an extrovert to actually make friends. So I have never considered myself to be an extrovert. I have my moments, of course, where I feel really social and excited by social gatherings, but that is very, very rare. I do much better in really small groups or one-on-one type situations than I do in large gatherings. And so the idea of traveling by myself and wondering like, will I just be lonely all the time? Will I make friends? What I found is that I make friends just as easily, I think, as extroverts do. And part of that is the extroverts coming to me, asking me questions, asking me to hang out with them, and me just saying yes. So there are definitely times where I sit in my hostel or I'm on a house sit and I am perfectly content being by myself. I'm happy to not speak to a single person, typical introvert. But then there's also been times where I've been really grateful that I've had even the short friendships that I've had, and that sometimes people kind of force me out of that bubble and sort of that, you know, solitary mindset and force me to sort of be in a social gathering. And I've experienced things that I wouldn't have experienced otherwise if I hadn't done that. So at the end of the day, if you are an introvert and you are curious about what it'll be like to travel by yourself, I would say it's perfectly fine. You're still going to meet people. And the best thing about it is that you do get to actually be by yourself a lot. You get to do whatever it is that you want to do. And I think for introverts, that's what we're looking for the most part. And so I would say solo travel for introverts is totally fine. You don't have to be an extrovert to do it. And then the last thing that I've really internalized. It's just that it's not as big of a deal as we make it out to be in our head. I think a lot of people, and a lot of people around us who don't live this lifestyle, get really worried and scared and anxious for us. And we have those feelings too, especially before we leave. Like, what's going to happen? What am I doing? What decisions am I making? And it's just like traveling to a new city or a new state if you live in the US, or even just having any new experience. You're going to have those feelings. But we like to build things up in our head, and we try to be aware and safe, and we want to be conscious of where we're going and what that means for us and what that's like. And at the end of the day, people are people. Life is life, no matter where you are. We all kind of live the same. And so even if you're in a country where you don't speak the language or you don't know how to use public transportation, it doesn't matter. You figure it out, because there's still those typical human rhythms that we go through on a daily basis. And so traveling by yourself and traveling internationally is an exciting and enjoyable time, and it's just not as big of a deal as I think that we and others around us try to make it out to be sometimes. So those are my top 5 lessons of what I learned traveling solo for the last year. And the reason I'm whispering a little bit is I'm in a co-working space here in Seoul, South Korea, and everyone can hear me outside, so I'm trying to be kind of quiet. But I hope you enjoy that, and please let me know in the comments below if there's anything else that solo travel has taught you, or that you've taken from it, or it doesn't have to be solo travel, traveling in general. I'd love to hear.